Jacques Joseph Charles Villeneuve, OQ, is a Canadian automobile racing driver and amateur musician. He is the son of Formula One driver Gilles Villeneuve, and is the namesake of his uncle, who was also a racer. Villeneuve won the 1995 kart championship, the 1995 Indianapolis 500 and the 1997 Formula One World Championship, making him only the third driver after Mario Andretti and Emerson Fittipaldi to achieve such a feat. To date, no other Canadian has won the Indianapolis 500 or the F1 driver's title. Following 2 successful years in kart, Villeneuve moved into Formula One with the front-running Williams team, alongside Damon Hill. In his debut season, Villeneuve challenged Hill for the title, winning 4 races and taking the fight to the final round in Japan, where the Canadian retired and Hill won the title. Villeneuve, however, did win the following year's title, this time challenging Michael Schumacher and once again taking it to the final round in Jerez, where Schumacher retired after the two collided. 1997 would be the last year in which Villeneuve would win a championship-level race and finish the season in the top 3. For 1998, Villeneuve's Williams team had to fare with less competitive Macachrome engines, and Villeneuve moved to the newly formed British-American racing team in 1999. He stayed there for the next 4 seasons but, following poor results, he was replaced by former British Formula 3 champion Takuma Sato. Villeneuve also drove for Renault at the end of 2004, and Sauber team in the 2005 season and 11 races of the 2006 season before suffering an injury in Germany. The Canadian was replaced by Robert Kubica and soon BMW, and Villeneuve parted company. Outside Formula One, Villeneuve has taken on several new careers, in sports car racing, racing for Peugeot in the 2007 and 2008 24 Hours of Le Mans, jumping to NASCAR in August 2007 and racing as an invited driver in the Argentinian Top Race V6 Series in the Australian-based International V8 Supercars Championship. As a musician, he has released an album titled Private Paradise. He was inducted into Canada's Walk of Fame in 1998. Personal and early life: Villeneuve was born in Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu, Quebec, to aspiring Formula One driver Gilles Villeneuve and his wife Joanne, and raised in Monaco. He has a sister Melanie and a half-sister Jessica. His uncle, Jacques Sr., was also a racing driver and in 1985 at Road America became the first Canadian to win a kart race. When Villeneuve was 11 years old, his father was killed during the qualifying session for the 1982 Belgian Grand Prix at Zolder following a collision with Jacques Mas. Villeneuve's first girlfriend was Sandrine Gros-Dallon. They dated until the late 1990s. Villeneuve was also engaged to Australian singer Dania Minogue in the late 1990s and was once engaged to American ballerina Ellen Green. He married his Parisienne girlfriend Johanna Martinez on May 29, 2006, at a civil ceremony in Switzerland. After the ceremony, it was announced the Villeneuves were expecting a baby in November. Johanna gave birth to a son, Jules, on November 14, 2006. Their second son Jonas was born on December 23, 2007. The couple divorced in July 2009. In June 2012, Villeneuve married Camilla Lopez. Villeneuve was among the first group inducted into Canada's Walk of Fame. Also, he was inducted into Canada's Sports Hall of Fame in 2010. He was named Canada's Athlete of the Year, receiving the Lou Marsh Trophy in 1995 and 1997. In 1998, he was made an Officer of the National Order of Quebec. From 1996 to 2002 he lived in Monaco, and from 2002 to 2007 he lived in Switzerland. In 2007 he moved to Quebec, buying a $3 million house in Westmount, Montreal, with his mother acting as real estate agent. Villeneuve owned a nightclub and restaurant in Montreal called Newtown, but he sold it in 2009. In 2012 he moved to Andorra, stating that he was leaving Quebec because of the province's language laws, business climate and the general morose ambience. Racing career. Early career. In 1984, 2 years after his father's death, Villeneuve asked his mother if he could follow his father's footsteps and go motor racing. His mother, Joanne, promised she would allow him to drive a kart if he got good marks in one of his weakest subjects, mathematics. Villeneuve applied himself at school and soon got the marks he required for his mother to fulfill her promise. A year later, Joanne allowed him to drive a 100cc kart at a kart track in Imola. The owners of the track, Luigi and Massimo Burati, were impressed by the Canadian, and after proving himself in a 100cc machine, he moved up to the 135cc version before, on the same day, being allowed onto the Grand Prix circuit with a Formula 4 car. Soon, Villeneuve's uncle, Jacques Sr., enrolled him at the Jim Russell Racing Driver School in Mont-Tremblant, Quebec. Villeneuve's course lasted 3 days, and in that time the Canadian demonstrated a great amount of concentration for a boy of his age. At the end of his course, the young Canadian received his diploma, and chief instructor Gilbert Pitnault declared Villeneuve as the best student he'd ever seen. During the summer of 1987, Villeneuve attended a racing school set up by former instructor Richard Smith. In return for helping in the garage, the Canadian received guidance in terms of racecraft as he attempted to hone his skills. At the age of 17, Villeneuve was too young to obtain a racing license in both his native Canada and Italy, and so, with help from the Canadian Automotive Federation, got a license from Andorra. In 1988, the 17-year-old entered the Alpha Cup and, against former Formula One drivers Johnny Cecotto and Mauro Baldi, finished the two-legged race in 10th position. 2 weeks later at Monza, Villeneuve was up against the likes of Riccardo Patrese and Nicola Larini. Villeneuve competed in the Italian Formula 3 series from 1989 through 1991, but failed to make an impression. In 1992, he raced in the Japanese Formula 3 series with the Toms team, winning 3 races and placing second in the championship, as well as third in the non-championship Macau Grand Prix. Villeneuve soon received an invitation from Craig Pollock to compete as a one-off in the Trois-Rivières Formula Atlantic race. Villeneuve finished the race third, and Pollock was impressed by Villeneuve, leading him to arrange for the Canadian to race in the North American Toyota Atlantic Series for the upcoming season. During the 1993 season, Villeneuve took 7 pole positions and 5 race victories from the 15 races. However, a few crucial driving errors cost the Canadian the series title, and so finished his debut season third in the standings. Kart IndyCar World Series equals. His Forsyth Green team took Villeneuve up a level into the IndyCar Championship in 1994. In his first year, Villeneuve came second at that year's Indianapolis 500 and won his first race at Road America, the circuit where his uncle had become the first Canadian to win a kart race 9 years before. Villeneuve finished the season in 6th position, 131 points behind champion Al Unser Jr. and also taking the Rookie of the Year award. Villeneuve started the 1995 campaign strongly, winning the first race on the streets of Miami. Along with the win in Miami came 3 other victories, the most significant of which came at Indianapolis for the Indy 500. Despite a mid-race 2-lap penalty, Villeneuve fought his way back up through the field. Running second with less than 10 laps to go, Villeneuve claimed the lead from fellow Canadian Scott Goodyear after Goodyear was penalized for having passed the pace car before the restart. With Goodyear out of the picture, Villeneuve went on to win the race by 2 seconds over Brazilian Christian Fittipaldi. His performances, as well as his family name, brought him to the attention of Frank Williams, managerial director of the Williams Grand Prix team. Williams signed him to his Formula One team for 1996, and Villeneuve began testing the Williams F1 car in 1995 after the IndyCar season. Villeneuve was the last kart IndyCar World Series champion before the 1996 kart IRL split created 2 rival series, the Indy Racing League and the Champ Car World Series. Formula 1 equals 1996 Euro 1998, Williams. 1996, Villeneuve signed a 2-year contract with Williams with an option year available to him as well. Villeneuve impressed during his debut race in Australia, taking pole position and almost won the race. But due to an oil leak, Villeneuve was forced to slow down and allowed teammate Damon Hill to pass and take victory at the opening round of the championship, The Canadian however did manage to hold on to second place. It would be another 11 years before another driver finished on the podium on his debut, which was Lewis Hamilton during the 2007 Australian Grand Prix. Villeneuve won his first Formula One race at the fourth round at the Na1 Quarter-Roubergring despite coming under pressure from the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher. Villeneuve won a further 3 races and managed to take the title to the final round at Suzuka. The Canadian and teammate Hill were the only drivers who could win the title, but with a gap of 9 points between himself and Hill prior to the final race, his chances of winning the title were slim. In the end, Hill won the race while Villeneuve retired on the 37th lap after his right rear wheel came off. Having won 4 races in his debut season, Villeneuve took the record for most wins in his first championship season. He also became the first driver in Formula One history to finish second in his first championship season. Both records were later equaled by Lewis Hamilton in 2007. 1997 Hill was dropped by Williams for 1997, making Villeneuve the team's lead driver. German Heinz-Harald Frentzen was brought in to replace Hill. Villeneuve once again challenged for the title, but instead of Hill, the Canadian found himself battling with then double world champion Michael Schumacher. David Coulthard took the opening race in Australia, but Villeneuve took the next 2 wins in Brazil and Argentina. 5 more victories came that season at the Spanish, British, Hungarian, Austrian and Luxembourg Grand Prix. Villeneuve also claimed 10 pole positions. His main rival Schumacher had 5 wins of his own to set up a showdown at the final race of the season. At Suzuka, Villeneuve started on pole but was placed at the back of the grid after ignoring yellow flags during Saturday practice. An appeal by Williams saw his position reinstated. However, Villeneuve finished 5th but was disqualified from the race, leaving Schumacher leading the Drivers' Championship by 1 point. The title was decided at the final round in Jerez. Villeneuve came out on top and won the World Championship in only his second season, but the race was remembered for a collision between himself and title rival Schumacher. As Villeneuve passed Schumacher at the dry sack corner during the 48th lap, the German turned into the Canadian's car, leaving Villeneuve with a damaged sidepod. Villeneuve recovered however and took 3rd place in the title while Schumacher retired and was disqualified from the championship. 1998, Villeneuve's career went into sharp decline following his World Championship title. Remaining with Williams in 1998, he struggled with an underpowered Macachrome engine, which were basically rebadged Renault V10 engines from the previous season that, despite some development, had been overtaken in power by both Ferrari and the Mercedes-Benz powered McLarens. He failed to win a single race, although he did finish on the podium twice in Germany and Hungary. Villeneuve finished 5th in the Drivers' Championship with 21 points, 79 points behind champion Mika Hakkinen KKINEN in the McLaren Mercedes. 1999 Euro 2003, Bar. 1999, in 1999, Villeneuve joined the newly founded British-American racing team, co-founded and partly owned by Villeneuve's personal manager, Craig Pollock, and by Adrian Reynard. Joining him as his teammate was Brazilian Ricardo Zonta. There was a lot of media hype about the new squad, but despite the high expectations, Bar had a poor season, retiring from the first 11 races of the season, an unfortunate record, and not scoring a single championship point. At times the car showed a promising pace, Villeneuve running in 3rd place at Barcelona, but often, technical problems ruined his chances. Villeneuve suffered a high-speed crash during practice at the Belgian Grand Prix at the Eau Rouge corner, from which he emerged unharmed. 2000, despite the lack of a competitive car in 1999, the Canadian remained loyal to Pollock's team, as did Zonta. The Supertc engines of the previous season were replaced by Honda engines, and the new Bauer Honda package proved to be more competitive, with Villeneuve finishing in the points on 7 different occasions and almost secured a podium finish at the United States Grand Prix, 2001. Zonta left Bar in 2001 to join Jordan as a test driver. The Brazilian was replaced by experienced Frenchman Olivier Panis. Villeneuve was involved in a crash at the Australian Grand Prix, the first race of the season, when he hit the back of Ralf Schumacher's Williams. a track marshal was killed when a stray tire hit him in the chest. Villeneuve scored 5 points less than the previous season, but finished on the podium twice in Spain and Germany. The latter was the final podium finish of his Grand Prix career. 2002, Pollock was sacked from his post as team manager in 2002 and was replaced by ProDrive boss David Richards. Along with Pollock, Richards sacked technical director Malcolm Astella and 50 members of staff at Bar. The Englishman soon began to debate over Villeneuve's £15 million annual salary. From this point on, Villeneuve felt less comfortable at the team. The Bar 004 proved to be a much less competitive car than the team's previous two, with neither Villeneuve or Panis scoring points consistently, with only 7 points scored between them, Villeneuve scoring 4 points to Panis 3. 2003. With 1 year left to run on his contract, Villeneuve turned down a lucrative offer to spend a season racing in kart before returning to Bar for 2004 and 2005, a deal which Villeneuve claimed was spoken about but never actually produced for him to sign. Instead, he decided that he would see out his present deal in the hope of landing a role at another Grand Prix team the following year. The Canadian was joined by Jenson Button from Renault in 2003 as Panis was offered a drive at the Toyota, which the Frenchman took. Button would prove to become the second of Villeneuve's teammates to outscore him in the Drivers' Championship as, unlike the Canadian, the Briton was able to score consistently with the Bar 005, finishing in the points every 2 races on average. Villeneuve was criticised by the media for being outpaced by his inexperienced teammate, and before the final round in Japan, the Canadian was replaced by former British Formula 3 champion Takuma Sato. 2004, Renault. With no contract for 2004, Villeneuve was forced to take a sabbatical, but maintained that he wanted to return to the sport. He continued training and made a special appearance at the Goodwood Festival of Speed driving his late father's Ferrari. In September, Villeneuve returned to Formula One, driving the final 3 Grands Prix of the season for the French Renault team. Gianni Trulli had fallen out of favour and team boss Flavio Briatore felt Villeneuve would be worth a gamble. Although vowing to help Renault achieve second place in the Constructors' Championship, ahead of his former team Bar, Villeneuve failed to score a single point, unable to finish any of his races on the lead lap. Renault settled for third in the final standings. Villeneuve admitted that the enforced layoff had cost him vital seat time. With the cars so much faster than in 2003, he found it difficult to adapt, and with an up-and-coming Fernando Alonso as teammate, his task was made all the more difficult. The young Spaniard proved faster. Just before his 3-race Renault comeback, Villeneuve signed a 2-year contract to drive for Sauber, starting in 2005. 2005 a Euro 2006, Sauber and BMW Sauber. 2005, his Sauber debut at the Australian Grand Prix saw him start on the grid in 4th position, although the Canadian would finish the race 9 places down the order in 13th and a lap down. For the opening 3 races he was the slowest driver on Michelin tyres, and rumours began to spread that he would soon be replaced. The rumours proved unfounded, and at Imola he scored his first points for the team with a 4th place. The pressure was soon back on him when he forced teammate Felipe Massa off the track when attempting to overtake the Brazilian in Monaco, ruining both their races. Towards the end of the season, his pace improved and he scored more points at Belgium, where he finished 6th, moving ahead of Massa in the championship tables, although Massa repassed him after finishing 6th in the season finale in China. In terms of speed, the two teammates were fairly evenly matched by the end of the year. Massa was later drafted into Ferrari to support Michael Schumacher's 2006 campaign. After much uncertainty, in late 2005 BMW confirmed that Villeneuve would race for BMW Sauber in 2006. GP2 frontrunner Heikki Kovalainen and IndyCar champion Dan Wheldon have both been linked with the seat, but BMW opted to honour Villeneuve's contract. To cut the contract would possibly have been an expensive exercise that would have cost them around $2 million, and Villeneuve was popular with the sponsors and team personnel. 2006. Several changes were made at Sauber during the off-season. First, the Swiss team were bought by BMW and renamed BMW Sauber. the German manufacturer wished to start their own works team following a 6-year partnership with Villeneuve's former employers Williams. In addition, Massa left Sauber for the vacant role left by Rubens Barrichello at Ferrari, and Nick Heidfeld was brought in to replace him. Villeneuve scored 7 points during the first 12 rounds of the season. But at the German Grand Prix, Villeneuve had allegedly sustained an injury in a crash on lap 31. After replacing Villeneuve in Hungary, test driver Robert Kubica drove to a solid 7th place, despite the chaotic wet conditions, but was later disqualified because his car was too light. Within days, BMW and Villeneuve announced that they had parted company with immediate effect. The reason for his departure was later revealed that he simply did not want to be a part of a potential shootout with Kubica, feeling that he has proven himself already. 2010, Stefan Villeneuve was close to signing with Stefan GP for the 2010 Formula One season, and undertook a seat fitting, but the FIA did not certify Stefan GP for competition in 2010. Villeneuve stated he was still looking for further opportunities in Formula One in 2010 and 2011. 2011, potential team ownership. In the middle of July 2010, reports from the German media emerged revealing that Villeneuve was putting together an entry bid to join the 2011 Formula One grid with his own team under the name Villeneuve Racing. The report went on to suggest that Villeneuve Racing had satisfied the entry criteria set by the FIA and had joined 2 other outfits on a short list of teams under consideration for the grid entry. Villeneuve subsequently released a statement confirming the existence of the entry, and that it is a collaboration with the Italian Durango team. Le Mans . On January 10, 2007, at the launch of the 908 HDI-FAP diesel-powered Le Mans prototype, Villeneuve was confirmed as one of Peugeot Sport's 9 drivers for the 2007 24 Hours of Le Mans. This was his first drive in a sports car since working with Toyota in 1992. For the race, Villeneuve shared the number 7 car with Marc Gina Copyright and Nicolas Minassian. Villeneuve set the fastest time of the 3 drivers in qualifying to put the car into 4th place on the starting grid. The car ran second for much of the race before pitting with engine problems at 12:39 p.m. The car was officially retired at 1:42 p.m. with only 100 minutes left of the race, after the team decided the problem could not be fixed. In the 2008 race, Villeneuve and his now 7 Peugeot team finished second. The team led for several hours but began to lose their lead when it rained. They did lose the lead in the 15th hour during a pit stop change. The Na2 Audi team won after leading for the final 10 hours. Villeneuve has since pledged to keep competing in the event until he wins it, and has been supported by Alan McNish. If he wins the 24 Hours of Le Mans, he would become the first person since Graham Hill to win the Triple Crown of Motorsport, having previously won both the Indianapolis 500 and the Formula One World Championship. NASCAR . In a subsequent interview with Autosport magazine, Villeneuve's manager Craig Pollock confirmed that Villeneuve's Formula One career was over. It was announced on August 24, 2007 that Villeneuve would run the remaining 7 races in the Craftsman Truck Series driving a Toyota Tundra for Bill Davis Racing and undertake a full-time Sprint Cup schedule in 2008. In Villeneuve's first Truck Series race on September 22, 2007, in Las Vegas Motor Speedway, he qualified in 7th position, and finished 21st. He made his NASCAR Nextel Cup race debut in the UAW Ford 500 at Talladega Superspeedway in Alabama over the weekend of October 5 for Euro 7, 2007. He qualified 6th, however, due to his lack of experience in this type of car, he elected to start the race from the back of the field and ran there for most of the race. He finished 21st due to a large number of accidents and mechanical failure on the other cars. Villeneuve failed to qualify for the 2008 Daytona 500. He lost his ride in Bill Davis Racing's number 27 car due to a loss of sponsorship, 2 days after he caused a pile-up in his qualifying race, when his car got loose, then slid back up the track, colliding with another car. He took part in the nationwide race in Montreal for Braun Racing. The race started off in the sun, but before halfway, it began to rain and the teams were told to pit and use rain tires, for the first time in NASCAR. Qualifying fifth, Villeneuve finished 16th after crashing into a car during a caution caused by poor visibility due to the rain. The race ended shortly after. In 2009, Villeneuve had 2 starts in the Canadian Tire Series. His best start was 5th and his best finish was 4th, both in the August 2009 event at Circuit de Trois-Rivières. Villeneuve also had 2 starts in the 2009 NASCAR Nationwide Series, both for Brawn Racing, with his best performance starting 6th and finishing 4th at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, again under wet conditions and the second time rain tires were used in a NASCAR event. He was then tabbed to drive the number 32 car in Montreal and at Road America in 2010. At Road America, he qualified second and stayed in second place for much of the race, including leading 3 laps. He was unable to complete the race since an alternator wire broke on the final lap. He was credited with a 25th place finish as the first car 1 lap down. For 2011, Villeneuve agreed to take over for Brad Keselowski in the number 22 car for Penske Racing in the Nationwide Series for 2 races which Keselowski could not attend. He started and finished 3rd at Road America. Later he won the pole at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve before finishing 27th. Villeneuve made his return to the Cup Series in 2013 in the 51 car for Phoenix Racing at Sonoma Raceway. Speed car with no sponsor for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Villeneuve joined the Speed car series for the remainder of the 2008 season. The series is composed of road courses and stock cars similar to NASCAR, and Villeneuve said, on a personal level, Speed car will give me more road racing experience with this kind of cars which will be useful in future NASCAR road course events, and it's also a great excuse to meet race fans. He raced 4 times with a best finish of 6th place. Top race V6 After racing both NASCAR Sprint Cup and Speed car series, Villeneuve was invited by the Top Race V6 chairman Alejandro Urtubey to join the series in its major event of the 2008 season, called La Carrera del +O, held at the Buenos Aires circuit. Villeneuve raced the number 27 car of the Oro Racing team and finishing the race in the 16th place. In 2009 he was invited again to run in 2 out of the 3 major races in the season, one at Interlagos on July 19 and the other being the second edition of La Carrera del +O at the Buenos Aires circuit on September 20. The last mentioned race being its better results in the series, finishing 13th. During a press conference held during the previous week before La Carrera del +O, Villeneuve stated that he would race the whole 2010 season if he did not get anything in Formula One or NASCAR. 2010 Vancouver Winter Olympic Games Villeneuve was one of several celebrity Canadians who carried the Olympic flag into Vancouver Olympic Stadium during the opening ceremony of the 21st Winter Olympic Games. He also carried the Olympic torch. V8 Supercars Villeneuve first competed in the V8 Supercar Series as an endurance co-driver partnered with Paul Dumbrell for Rod Nash Racing in the 2010 Gold Coast 600. In 2012, Villeneuve participated in the Surecrogen Townsville 400, Coates Hire Ipswich 300 and Sydney Motorsport Park 360 rounds, driving the number 51 Pepsi-sponsored Kelly Racing Holden VE Commodore, filling in for an injured Greg Murphy. FIA World Rallycross Championship In 2014 it was announced that Villeneuve will be taking part in the FIA World Rallycross Championship with Albate Racing in a Peugeot 208. In February 2014 Albate released Villeneuve from his contract to race in the UK round of the World Rallycross Championship so that he can race in the Indy 500 for Schmidt-Peterson Motorsport. Formula E In 2015 it was announced that Villeneuve will be taking part in the FIA Formula E Championship with Venturi Grand Prix alongside star copyright Fainsa Racing. Helmet Villeneuve uses a yellow helmet, with the upper part blue, and pink, red and green lines. Villeneuve apparently designed his helmet while doodling on a drawing pad. The pink line forms a V on each side, which Villeneuve has been quoted as saying was unintentional. Some say that the colors of the helmet were based on the shirt of his mother Joanne. Music career Though he started writing his lyrics during his lower league days in Japan, it was not until 2006 that he released his first commercial single except Jerez 2, a French song with lyrics that fit well with his present personal status, asking his loved one to marry him. On February 19, 2007, Villeneuve released his first album entitled Private Paradise. The launch was held at his Café Copyright, where he performed 2 songs in front of a crowd largely composed of news reporters. When asked about his expectations on the album, he released the following statement: "I hope the album makes a great success. I would never do something hoping to get criticized." His new record had very low sales. As of March 9, 2007, only 233 copies were sold in the entire province of Quebec and about 30 outside of Quebec and Canada, excluding digital sales. On December 31, 2007, in 2007, a satirical end-of-year review on Radio-Canada, announced that he had sold only 836 CDs in North America. TV advertisements: Villeneuve has appeared in various TV commercials for Honda when he was driving for the bar team. In March 2006, when driving for BMW Sauber, he appeared in television campaign for Intel's Centrino laptop campaign, in which he touts the benefits of using Intel Centrino Duo mobile technology. Villeneuve also appeared in a Canadian commercial alongside Olympic gold medal-winning sprinter and countryman Donovan Bailey shortly after winning his 1997 F1 World Drivers' title. The ad proclaimed Canada to be the fastest nation on Earth. In 1997, following his win of the Formula One World Championship, Villeneuve appeared in a Volkswagen advert on Quebec television. Villeneuve was seen driving a VW before stopping and saying at the camera that he has nothing against German guys, much less for the Allemands, referring to the vehicle and German girls, a reference to his rivalry with Michael Schumacher and for the incident at the 1997 European Grand Prix. Villeneuve also appeared briefly in the 2001 Sylvester Stallone action movie Driven as a race car driver. Motorsports career results. Career summary American Open Wheel Racing results Key. Toyota Atlantic Championship. Kart. IndyCar Series. Indianapolis 500. Formula 1 Key. Sports car racing 24 hours of Le Mans. Le Mans Series. Complete 24 hours of Spa. NASCAR Key. Sprint Cup Series. Daytona 500 results Nationwide Series. Craftsman Truck Series. Canadian Tire Series. Other stock cars Speed Car Series, Key. Stock Car Brazil, a Euro ineligible for championship points. Touring Cars V8 Supercar, a Euro not eligible for points. Complete FIA World Rallycross Championship results Supercar. See also, List of Canadians in Champ Car, Villers-sur-Olon. References. External links, official website, Jacques Villeneuve driver statistics at Racing Reference, Jacques Villeneuve at F1DB, Jacques Villeneuve at Driver Database, Villeneuve to drive for BMW in 2006.